from rescues that had taken the animals from Harris County and then shipped them to Allen, where they were left in horrible conditions. Another proposed transfer was to send our dogs to Deer Park. In turn, would get dogs from Deer Park at our shelter. This worked very well with Pearland. But Pearland has a shelter that is similar to ours. They share our concerns, they offer the same level of care, but I don't think that Deer Park does that. I've mentioned before that I think the shelter needs someone who is experienced in animal care. Cindy King has been a very good manager in terms of making sure that the shelter runs, that the shelter is clean. But she has shown very little empathy towards the animals and in some instances towards that staff. I think as we move forward, especially planning a new shelter, we need to send to the public a reason for them to want to donate to this. When citizens try to call the shelter and they're sent through the 311 system, they never actually get anyone at the shelter. Okay, that's disconcerting. It's time up. All right. Thank you for listening.
Our second speaker is Lynn Hartham. You don't hear me? Okay. I'm Lynn Hartham, 4003 Brenner Court, Sugar Land. I'm eager to hear about the plans for a new Sugar Land animal shelter, but I am very worried that Sugar Land voters will not approve another $12 million for a $20 million total because of the declining image of the shelter in our community. I raised my concern at a recent budget meeting about the total number of dogs being halved in terms of what's being cared for at the shelter. Although not everyone reads reports the way I do, I think the average citizen knows that if you find a dog, you cannot take it to the shelter. And those people go home after they're turned away by the shelter and they tell their friends and family and neighbors, and the shelter's reputation suffers. As many of you know, the turnover of the shelter of both employees and volunteers has been pretty horrific over the last 2 years. That too is a symptom of issues that are not being addressed. And I'd like to just remind us that we used to have a shelter that operated at under the Sugar Land way, the way everything else in the city did. And that meant taking in any dog that was found in Sugar Land. It meant providing uber compassionate care for strays in the shelter. It meant taking future responsibility for animals that left our shelter. It meant carefully screening adopters. And I'd like to share a few recent examples of how far we're falling from that standard now. Recently, a wonderful husky suffered for more than 4 days with a highly contagious fungal pneumonia, not even able to stand for most of that time. He should have been humanely euthanized well before that. In another case, a darling puppy was adopted out to a Houston resident. The microchip wasn't registered back to Sugar Land the way it was supposed to be. That puppy escaped the adopter's yard the next morning and nobody knows where it is now. And there's no way for Sugar Land to get in touch. I helped at the George R. Brown Clear the Shelter event. On Saturday, all dogs were $35 and on Sunday they were free. There was no screening of adopters in any way. So anyone who came up and pointed to a dog could walk away with it. In at least one case, another volunteer and I were heartbroken when a pit mix was adopted out to a woman living in a Section 8 apartment, which did not even allow pit bulls. There was no telling what became of that dog. We raised the concern to Cindy, but nothing was done to get the dog back to Sugar Land. Finally, this past week, as Christine mentioned, there was a plan to transport all or most of Sugar Land's dogs to Deer Park and Harris as part of a dog swap, which, as Christine mentioned, can be a good thing for dogs. In this case, Deer Park has a save rate of less than 60% for dogs. The other shelter, Harris County, the Houston Chronicle already did a great job of showing us their issues. They have over 500 dogs. They have multiple dogs in kennels. It's a high stress environment. Previously, we've done dog swaps. It's always been to shelters that are similar to ours, where we know the care, and there's always been conditions. These dogs come back to us, they're not euthanized, and that wasn't done in this case. I'm happy to hear that that deal was taken off the table, but it came very close to happening. So again, I would just like to see if we're gonna ask the citizens for $12 million, I'd like to see a return to the gold standard service. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Charlene Avery.
Good afternoon. My name is Charlotte Avery and I live in New Territory. I want to start by saying thank you to everyone at the shelter and elsewhere for getting the Community Cat program up and running. As many of you know, I've been talking about the need for this for at least 2 years. And of course, I signed up immediately. If anyone is interested in becoming a Community Cat caretaker, please email animalservices@sugarlandtext.gov for guidelines as well as a contract. I know that this program is currently funded by a limited grant. Is anyone currently working on getting another grant to keep this program going? The more cats we can get spayed and neutered, the less we will have end up in our shelter, and we will reduce the overload during kitten season, which is now basically all year long. We try really hard within my own NT community to reunite our strays without them having to go to the shelter at all. Our NT Pet Group has identified and reunited 45 dogs and cats from July through today. That's how many we've returned ourselves. Again, getting your neighbors to help out and act as a team is a must. I am concerned, though, about the lack of consistency in what the public is told regarding the pickup of strays. And I know it depends on the day if intake will be open, as well as injured wildlife. The public is still being told to leave animals where they have been found, even if it is in a dangerous location when intake is closed. I spoke recently at a city council budget meeting and asked for a change in our city ordinance that would make it illegal for any retail shop to sell any animal unless it was from a shelter or registered 501c3 rescue organization. This is the perfect time to make this change after what occurred at that pet shop. If we make this change now, we can let their permit expire. And I'd like to know if there's any update on this. Final point. When residents of Sugar Land do not feel like the shelter is supporting them and taking care of our animals the way that we are used to at the Sugar Land way, the gold standard that other people have talked about, they become disenfranchised. I'm getting extremely concerned about the new law we've been passing because what I'm hearing, people are not happy at all, and they are going to vote no right now. None of us here want to see that happen. We've all fought really hard for it. I'm hoping that we will find a way to turn this perception around, and I believe that we can. Thank you.
Speaker number 4 is Christiane Galvani.
Good afternoon. Oh.
My name is Christiane Galvani. I live in Sugar Creek on 2926 Fairway Drive. My only reason for speaking to you today is to ask the board and the city to consider introducing registration or licensing fees for dogs and cats. The surrounding cities do it because it helps reunite owners with their pets, keeps control. One of the cities around here, I don't remember which one, has a limit on 4 animals per household, which is not really unreasonable. It raises revenue for our shelter. It keeps things orderly. City of Houston has the highest fees. It has $60 per pet. Pearland no longer has registration, but they offer, they require all pets to be microchipped after the age of 4 months. Now, the city of Richmond has a flat fee of $10 per annual license, and non-altered pets have to have a breeding permit in addition to the city license, which I think is fantastic. To keep puppy mills maybe in check. I don't know. It's something to think about. The city of Stafford has $5 fee for microchip. It also has a mobile service for registration for microchipping. I think all of these ideas are worth thinking about, and they don't have to cost an arm and a leg. But if we start doing that and enforcing it, I think we raise revenue and we keep certain things in check. Everywhere microchipping and altering, neutering and spaying your pets is rewarded by lower fees. Oh, and in Houston, the fee for senior citizens, the two-legged kind, not the one-legged kind, is $2. So it's something to think about, and to come up with an idea of best practices, which is my husband's favorite term, and I get to use it.
At this time, we will close public comment and move on to item number 3, which is minutes. So in consideration of an action on the minutes from our May 10th, 2024 meeting, is there do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the meeting?
I make a motion that we approve the minutes of the May 10th.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we will now move on to item number 4, workshop, which is a review of our new animal shelter by Rob Valenzuela. And Jennifer, I have both of you listed here.
I think Rob's gonna do most of the talking.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about the animal shelter real quick. Dr. Bender line too. I kind of give you all kind of a quick update of kind of what it consists of and go from there. So if you recall, we started this process a while back with our consultants. And we wanted to kind of take a look at the shelter that we had designed or at least planned for early on compared to what today looks like. A couple of things that changed, and these are all the things that we talked about in our last meeting, if you will. So there's nothing new on this list. This is the same thing you've seen before. The live release rates, we had noticed we were slight uptake in those. We also recognize that the animal housing standards had changed. So that means that the kennel space for dogs has gotten bigger. I think it changed the large category and the medium category as well. A shift to more indoor kenneling versus outdoor kenneling, trying to accommodate what we're facing, right? It's the environmental conditions, that's hot outside, cold outside, those types of things. And what it amounted to was a shift in the number of housing units for dogs at the end of the day. We also built in the growth for Sugar Land as well. This is kind of what it looked like from a very schematic. I wouldn't get too married to it because it could change as we go through, pending hopefully we do get approval. But this is kind of the way it looked like. We had looked at multiple locations around the city, if you will. I think we looked at 6, 7 different locations. I think the preferred location was over off 90A. Next are embedded into the Imperial Park area. So over there by the girls softball fields. There's a wooded area over there. And so we felt this gave a lot of access to it, had plenty of parking, it has trails, it has everything that you would want to do when it comes to an animal shelter. Size wise, I think the overall cats and dogs split, I mean, the total had kind of stayed the same. It was just a shift from cats, a little less cats and a little bit more dogs, if you will, and they're getting space wise. What you saw was a shift in the square footage. And so total square footage was 23,000 square feet. A little toward 2,600 was basically outdoor area for a gross area of about 26,000 total. This one's quite a bit bigger than the initial one. Like I mentioned, space for the kennels had grown, but more importantly as well, the other one didn't really have a lot of space for staff. And so this one has like staff locker rooms in it. It has office space for them to actually have a space to do their work and those types of things. And so you see some of those things get embedded. There's some strategies last time that we would double up in rooms, use of the rooms, if you will. And so we pull those out. So they're singular use for type rooms at this point. So this is really kind of those type of big changes at the end of the day. We will go through a value engineering phase. We do that with most of our projects, just as we get closer to design type of things. We'll go back through and see if there's any way that we can be a little bit more efficient and save a little more dollars. From a cost perspective, from a very high level planning estimate, and there again, it's gonna bounce around as we get further into it. Cost wise was 20.4 million. And so when we look at, well, let's see where from a history standpoint, where have we landed? If you recall, in 2019, we had a GO bond. It was 6.6 million. That was passed by the voters. We did have a commitment from this board as well to fundraise 2.4 million. And so that's basically your $6, $7, $8, $9 million. And so the proposed GO bond that we have moved forward, which is Proposition E, is for 12 million, and that's where the 20 million comes together at the end of
I
the day.
realize that adds up to 21.
Well, okay, so we'll back it out a little bit.
There's a million in there for inflation costs. And I'm looking at that slide and I'm like, that doesn't add up to 20. It does add up to 21, but so the 12 million that is on the ballot includes some additional for inflation. Because it is 18 to 24 months construction, plus we still have to design. And so that, but our budget for now in 2024 dollars is 20 million.
And I think that's a standard in project management. When
Yes.
you're building, it is completely normal to add dollars for inflation, because by the time you're actually building, costs will likely have gone up.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because there's a lot of things that we just talked about that are gonna be flexible, right? The value engineering piece, the fine tuning of the buildings, the footprint can change. Some of the rooms could go in or out type of thing. So you'll see some changes there potentially. You could see some potential changes as a result of that in the cost as well. And then the timing of it. Keep in mind, the bond election is a 5-year, 7-year type program. And so making sure that it's programmed and you have those dollars accounted for as you move through from a timing perspective. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up. Very key points. So that's kind of where we're at. We have the bond proposition out there. I think some of y'all have gone through the board training.
So we're not supposed to mention. I have cards for everyone to hand out. So as if talking to the public, this has a QR code on the back to send people to our bond website. So we can pass them out at the end of the meeting to do it right now. But so I have some for y'all to take.
There you go. That, y'all have any questions? John?
While we're talking about and moving forward on Sugarland only shelter as an alternative to something else, are we also going down a parallel path of talking about regionalization of the shelter activities?
So there is another effort. The county does have a study on that is ongoing. We were contacted earlier.
Earlier this year.
It was this year, then it kind of died away, but it picked up again, I want to say about a month or two ago. It sounds like they are moving forward with a study to do a regionalized approach to animal services.
Well, I understand that we had people.
Right, we had looked at it and then it kind of went away. Right, and then it went away and then it came back. We got direction from the council, moved forward with our own. And so we are still moving in that direction. Council has not changed that direction for us.
So we're doing parallel paths to some degree here.
Well, I want to address that. And so what we're doing is we're moving down this path. We have given the county our data, right? Our animal numbers, those types of things. We've given them all that information. I don't know what it's going to look like in the future, but right now council has directed us to move forward with this option, and that's what we are doing.
Okay, these questions have started to come up, so I'm going to ask you to see if we can have a way for the city to address them.
And there might be some we don't have the answers to, and we'll definitely get them back to you.
We have, as you indicated, some funds from the 2019 bond issue, and we're looking at a bond issuance coming up. Is the description of what can be done with those funds big enough to include a regionalization?
I'll have to clarify that for you. I don't believe so, but don't quote me on it. I'll need to make sure. I want to make sure I get you the right answer on that.
A study that we did only looked at
our needs.
Yeah, it was only for our needs. It wasn't, didn't include everybody else's needs, right? So,
Well, no, but it would be our share, and, you know, we wouldn't pay for everybody in the world, but could the money raised by the bonds, if it turned out that our own shelter alternative was not the best, or for one reason or another, could it be our way to fund our share of a regionalized approach?
I don't know. Let me get with our folks and find that out for you. It's a good question though.
And I understand that we are not to be talking about specifics and promoting one way or another. So this may be something that would have to come back to the Sugar Land website where we would direct people to look. But it is a question that's has surfaced already, and so I think we need to look into it.
Thank you for letting us know that.
Yeah, if we proceed down and get the proceeds and be able to actually move down a Sugar Land only alternative, what are people thinking would be the time when we could actually have something built and usable for the animals?
That goes to the timing of the issuing of the debt and the timing that the council would approve us to move forward with that.
And the time to build and all of
Time to
that.
build, yeah.
What are we envisioning as what would be something that Sugar Land would be think of as optimal?
Yeah, I don't know, Jennifer, do you recall the timing behind it? Or is that one of those things we probably need to get back with?
So I talked to Jessie about it. She said it's 18 to 24 months construction, once we have it designed. So if you assume you probably need 6 to 9 months,
A year.
a year to design, not sure. If, right now, the timing of it, if the bond passes, we would begin design in 2025. Assuming then construction would be 26 to 27 time frame, so probably late 27, early 28. And that, that's what we've said for a while. This is well, even starting last year, it's a 3 to 5 year process before we're in a new shelter regardless.
Okay, so one of the things that this board and staff need to be considering is how we bridge the time from now to then.
Absolutely.
How do we take care of the animals, anticipating more.
Any other questions?
So piggybacking off of that, when we had the bond before, there were the list of projects and there wasn't a set schedule. It was just like whatever the council would decide what piece of the puzzle would go first. But you just made it sound like that if the bond passes, that the shelter would happen sooner than later. Like it's the priority, it's kind of at the top of the list of the things that are on that bond, or maybe they're gonna happen concurrently. But the last bond, it was like, it seemed like the shelter got pushed back. It wasn't a priority, even though it had passed. It was like, we're not doing it this budget year, we're not doing it the next. But now it sounds like we're making, if it passes, that it is gonna happen.
Then the 2019 bond, the shelter was planned to be at the end of the schedule. Then COVID happened, it got pushed back even more. Now, the way the projects are laid out, and what's gonna be filed for the final capital improvement program pending the bond in November, it would be at that beginning. So it's 5 separate propositions, but we have scheduling of the projects based on our financial capacity of how quickly we could issue the debt. And so it is in the early part of the program.
And then my second question is, are we tied into that location? Is that like if people ask, or is that on the website? Because again, that's a change from before what we advertised. And so are we saying, yes, we're definitely gonna be at that place off of 90, or it's still up in the air?
Yeah, that is the #1 location we have right now. Now, there's a lot of ifs in there, right? You know, if the bond package passes, if all these things fall in place, but right now, the criteria that we were evaluating, this was the #1 spot.
And if people would ask, why not the previous allocated spot?
Yeah.
Is it a space because of the size increase that, and that's why we're moving away from the.
There are a number of factors. It's not just
That's the bigger picture.
Okay, well, people are gonna ask, and so I just want to be prepared to be able to say, you know, here's one more change, but this is why, and is that information on the website for the bond? information or not?
Not sure, but if not, we'll get you something on that.
Right, and that is all our property still. The park is still city
Oh, yeah.
property, so it's not like you're going to the landowners or anything.
No. This is all city property.
Do we have a plan in place to interface with the residents in any way about the bond? So I'm thinking getting out there at clubhouses or other community events where there's opportunity to speak on behalf of the animal shelter project and the other projects.
Yeah, there's a series of education sessions that are going on across the community in a variety of different formats, and that process has actually already started. It could be something, we might have a booth at the farm where we can engage with people. It could be at a city event as well. It can be more formal in the sense of we're going to go to visit with homeowner associations or civic groups and those types of things. And that, like I said, that process is and so the education of the bond and what's in the bond is something.
I'd like to, if there's any need for a volunteer at those kinds of activities, to hand out to, I don't have to speak or I can speak, but I'd be willing to participate in any or all of those.
Any other questions? Thank you so much, board.
Okay, we will move on.
Just confirming, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, it's that I'm having trouble with my video camera, but I am here. I'm present.
All right.
Thank you.
And confirm our attendance that way. Okay, I'm gonna take the next item. All right. Okay, we will now move on to review of and discussion on animal shelter and community engagement program updates. And Cindy?
It's gonna be me.
Okay.
He's not here.
And
Yeah, so real quick, and you probably noticing there's a couple folks missing from the group today. We've heard you. I've seen the emails. I've had conversations with several folks. We're listening. As a result, there's been a few resignations at the city, at the shelter. But many of those are in the leadership roles. So we are in the process of stabilizing the shelter, getting programs put in place. We have an internal team that we've put together. We met with the shelter folks this morning. That team, 100% of their dedicated time is working on the concerns that you brought forward. In my mind, a lot of those concerns are wrapped around our operating procedures, our policies, our transparency, those types of things. That is going to be their number one goal. And so we have a team that put in place. They are in the process of organizing themselves, getting workspace, getting all that fun stuff. And then come Monday morning that they are coming to work to do that. And so we're going to work through that. If you'll just be patient with us. We're going to continue to move with the shelter and let the shelter continue to do its things, but we're catching up with everything else that unfortunately we had committed to these in the past and we hadn't delivered on them. And so we're gonna step back and we're gonna get those things taken care of ASAP. They are our number one priority. And so for that reason, there's a couple folks missing today, like I mentioned, and we'll address it and keep moving forward. And so with that, we'll turn it back over to Jennifer and let her wrap up this portion of it.
Just one question on that. The people who run the shelter when we're not there, they actually do a really good job, but are they aware of the subcommittees and the role that the AAB plays in helping to determine all that?
They are fully aware of that, but we're also going to have them think through kind of how that process works for the most part. So using this board potentially a bit more, but those are all conversations we're going to have internally with them and see exactly what does that look like.
All right, so it's been a while since we've met. There was a lot of activity we couldn't put it all inside. So I'm gonna touch on highlights and some of the activity that we wanted to, that we felt was most important. So first of all, I would like to introduce Sandra Stroud over there in the corner taking notes. She is our new administrative manager. We have reorganized the structure of the staff. And so I am still overseeing the shelter. And so we have a leadership team that would include Sandra, Paige, Mike, and myself. We will have an interim shelter manager also as part of the team, and then the team helping us with our policies and procedures. So that's the big structure. We have taken Ashley's old position. We have turned it into another engagement coordinator. So that will help us to network our animals, help with volunteers, help with the foster program, so we can boost our activities in those areas. I'm sorry, I'm gonna step back, so I'm not like blocking the slides from y'all. Forget that, you know, realize y'all were back there. So, 'cause you're behind me, so I don't see you. We will be recruiting for some of those positions, but we are going through looking at our efficiencies. And so we have to provide some data to actually justify the recruitment of those positions to our people and culture team. So that will take a little bit of time. We're gathering the information to show our activities, show you know, that we're using our resources as effectively as we can. But since the last time we've met, we have hired 3 new kennel techs, 2 part-time, which is Avery Clark and Megan Renee. Is that how you say her last name? Yes. Okay. And then at the top, we have Julia Serrano started full-time at the beginning of August. We have another full-time going to start on Monday, which is Amy Fruitholes is going to transfer from being an ASO to a kennel tech. And when she comes back from FMLA on Monday. We have also filled our vet tech positions. We have Mary Tucker and Jean Hope in those 2 positions. And then we also have Sandra Stroud that has joined us from City Hall. And so she is helping us on the administrative side, as well as overseeing the front desk. Skyla has been promoted to intake and adoption specialist instead of receptionist. I feel like it more accurately reflects her duties. And then she will also oversee the engagement coordinators. We've been doing a lot of training of staff as well. So we had our behavior management certification course. We had 7 staff members participating in that. Myself, the 4 ASOs, Jillian and Skyla, all completed that course in July. In September, at the end of the month, there's a new course starting. We're gonna have our 2 vet techs complete that course. That is an 8-week course. Our ASO supervisor, Mike Gravis, this is too far away, I can't read it. And our 2 ASO2s attended the tactical canine behavior course in May. And they have brought back some information on how to how to capture dogs more safely. And so we'll have some policies and procedures come forth from that training session that we'll be bringing forward to the policy committee. We had Jillian and Paige attended the Best Friends Conference in July. We have had Best Friends conduct several trainings for all staff, once on site, and then this week we had a virtual training for disease prevention. And then we've had 1 each of the ASOs participating in the dangerous dog investigation and the cruelty investigation certification course. And I'll be starting the shelter, what is it called? Animal Shelter Management Program. I will be participating in that program. It is a 9-month, basically it's a school year long course. I will be doing that online starting in later this month. Okay, so y'all may be aware, we had a panleukopenia outbreak with our kittens. We had our first case identified on June 19th. We see panleukopenia a lot. It got big very quickly. After that first litter, we had a couple of kittens get really sick quickly. 3 of them did not survive out of that litter. That was a litter of 5. We had another litter of 7 kittens that tested positive on the 26th. Now these litters, they acquired this outside the shelter. They had it when they came in. Their panleukopenia is about a 14-day incubation period. These guys had not been in the shelter that long, so they brought it with them. We then had 1 cat test positive in the adoption room. At that point, we decided to close intake and adoptions for cats. For that 2-week quarantine period, we wanted to make sure that we didn't have a spread. And so we had on July 2nd, we had 16 cats and kittens in Panluke. And as of September 10th, we've had 6 Panluke cleared from recovery. 3 were positive, and they were also ringworm positive. And let's see, August 1st through September 9th, we took in 51 stray cats. 21 were positive for ringworm and 14 were positive for Panluke. 6 had both. So they're bringing these diseases into the shelter with them. And so that's why disease control is so important. And our operating procedures are what we have to rely on to ensure that that disease does not spread.
Jennifer, are we, so in the past, when we've worked on new shelter design, layout procedures in the new shelter, we took great care to make sure that things like Panluke, the things that frequently happen within our existing shelter were kind of elevated to any best practices that are out there that we could potentially have opportunity to incorporate in a new build. We carried those through, and I assume we're doing the same thing, but I just want to remind us and ask that we
Is a priority. It is a big priority. As we've talked with the consultant from Animal Arts and Jeff Gerber from PGAL, Heather, I think is her name, from Animal Arts. That was like the one thing that we really talked about was disease control, design of ventilation systems that are isolated so that we're not like cross-contaminating areas, even having like separate intake rooms. So that is a big focus and of how we would like to see the new shelter be laid out. So yes, thank you. Still a very, very high priority because we want to protect the herd basically. Like once they're in our shelter, we want to make sure they don't get sick. We don't want them to acquire diseases. And so that's why we focused on the training for the kennel cleaning. We had Best Friends come in and train everybody on staff on how to not transfer fomites, which is like you may have something on your shirt. How do you don't want to transfer that to the cat kennels when you're cleaning them. So, changing gloves, making sure that you're not touching things for cross contamination. And then I personally missed the disease prevention, but the rest of the staff participated in that this week. So it's been a big focus. We also have, is it Dr. Becca?
Yes, Dr. Becca's meeting is
later this month.
Okay.
And yeah, so we'll be participating in that. So definitely a focus. Okay, so ringworm, this guy, this is Walker, I believe. Either Walker or Tate, I don't know, I can't tell them apart. They look so similar. I don't know, we live in a very humid environment, so ringworm is an ongoing issue for us. In August and September, 41% of our intakes were ringworm positive. So Claw Cafe, which is the room in the back where we take care of the ringworm kitties, Jean and Mary stay very busy back there. It is a long treatment, a long recovery time. And so, as I mentioned, the high number, we've had them have both ringworm and Panluke, which just really complicates things. Oh, this is Tate. I found it in the notes. This is Tate. So he is currently available for adoption. This is what he looks like now. This is what he looked like on intake. He's very sweet. He is in I think he's in the first kennel on the left when you walk into the adoption room. So as of July 22nd, we had 21 in treatment. It seems like every time we clear a litter, we get another one in. So as of September 9th, we have had 21 in treatment as well, not the same kitties. So it is just a continual thing. So, but Jean and Mary stay on top of it, and they're working real hard to get these kids. All right, so you're aware we have our heartworm program that was funded by a grant last year. We are continuing that. So far, we've treated 77 heartworm positive dogs in-house. We have Dr. Janacek from First Colony Vet Clinic that comes in 2 days a month. That what we do the 30 days of the doxy, and then they have 2 days of back-to-back injections. I can't remember what's the name of that medicine that they inject? Diarbit, yes, okay. I can't remember things. So she comes in, she was here this week, actually. And so we have 2 currently undergoing treatment. We ask once they get adopted, we ask the owners to bring them back so we can test them in 6 months. 24 of them have tested negative on follow-up. So far, we've only had 2 adverse reactions, which is, it happens. Gypsy was one. She had, some issues with some paralysis after the Diarbit. You're injecting medicine into their spine, basically, there's always a risk. And then June, as well, she had a reaction. She was on a sleepover, had a bad reaction. We ended up having to euthanize her, because of that, at the emergency vet. So, that was I think in March. So since then, we've not had any adverse reactions. All right, Dr. Bender, this is your setup here. Dr. Bender has been to us 2 days. We contracted with her to do a bunch of surgeries. We've had, in July, she came after the leukopenia outbreak was cleared. She did surgeries on 24 cats and kittens. They have all since been adopted. I think at that point we have like 100, and all of them have been cleared except for the ones that were still being treated for like ringworm and panleuk. They came last Saturday. We had seizure pups, and we had a litter of Cane Corsos that we intook back in July, I think. I can't remember what the timing of when, but anyway, they were found in a laundry basket in a park. There was 8 of them, 7 survived, or actually there was 9. One of them was deceased already. 7 of them survived. They went to the Parvo Center for a couple of weeks. So we did all those surgeries along with 3 cats. So she was very busy last Saturday. So fortunately, they have all been taken care of. So
Jennifer, was that just to catch up and we're not doing weekly?
it was. Now, we will probably do another contract with Dr. Bender. We just have a contract for TNR with her. The problem with, or with Further, this is her nonprofit that she created, which she got this mobile vet unit that she bought from out of state and brought it down. She does surgeries at Fort Bend County a lot. We do have a contract with her for TNR. The problem with that is it's hard to get that many TNR cats on one day. As you're aware, we trap them, we take them to surgery, we release them. So I think we pay her like $1,500 for a day to come and do surgeries, and we can do up to 30 surgeries in that one day. Then it's really hard to do that with TNR. So we'll probably just do another contract next year, next fiscal year with her. We've already run through all the money that we had with her on this contract. We'll do another contract with her if we have another event like this, or we need a bunch of surgeries to have her come back. But as of now, we're keeping up with our surgeries. I think we sent like 9 or 10 to NBC this morning for surgery. The 2 puppies and I think 7 pigs. So we've been able to keep up with it, but it's when we have something like this happen, it's just really nice to have that as an opportunity. Those 7 Cane Corsos, I mean, to have surgeries on those. Those dogs they can get big, you know, they weren't big when they first came in. They got big quickly. Just having it just for that would have been cost effective on its own. And then we had the other puppies to throw in there. So definitely a good resource, and we're glad we're able to partner with her. All right, field officer activity. This is, I think, the first time we've shown the level of field officer activity to y'all as a board. But Mike and his crew, they stay pretty busy. Right now, we only have the 2 ASO2s. Amy's been out, and then Mike. So basically, the 3 of them have been working in like most of August. It's just been 3 people. The RTOs in field, this is dogs and cats, a few cats, mostly dogs that they pick up in the field. They scan them, for the microchip. They actually return them to their owners in the field. They never come into the shelter. They don't ever get booked as an intake. This is something that we've not recognized in our numbers. It doesn't show up on our best trends reports. I went back and looked, and I believe in the past they used to do like a field intake. And so when I looked at the numbers, like they had really high intakes. They had a really high number of RTOs. And so it leads me to believe, and I don't know what the data says, it looks like they were intaking in the field, running it through Chameleon, assigning an AID number, and then returning it. Just based on the percentages that I'm seeing and looking at the historical numbers. So I think we did a couple more already this month in September. We don't have those numbers in here.
Are these animals that escape their yard and then they're returned?
So what they do is when we get a call for dogs running at large, we send the ASO out, or say somebody has a dog at their house. I caught this stray, please come scan it for a chip. If it has a chip, they can look up the owner. Oftentimes it's very close to home, and they attempt to get it home and never bring it into the shelter. And that's the goal, is to get those pups home as quickly as possible. We've had a lot of bite cases. You can see we've had 14 in May, 11 in August, and I know they've had several already this month that they're working. And then the investigations are the cruelty cases, or hoarding or whatnot, just the investigations that we're working. And those can take a lot of time. So these are the types of things that we're going to be using to justify the recruitment for filling those vacant positions.
Jennifer?
Yes.
So now that you're showing us the RTOs, when the shelter is closed for dog intake and a citizen calls and says, I have a dog, can you come scan it? Will we still go out and scan it?
Absolutely.
And so if they don't have a microchip, then what is the citizen told if there's no intake, but the animal officer is right there?
Yeah, what we've done in the last few months, we've tried a finder to foster program. We did that with Duke. We stayed with a family for a little while, for a few weeks. Then a space opened up in the shelter and we were able to intake him and do surgery. That one gets a little sticky because you kind of lose, like, it's hard to keep an eye on them when they go directly into the foster home. But that's something that we've trialed. We are also looking at asked Paige to run some numbers on our sleepover return rate. I think we were at about a 50% return rate for sleepovers on dogs. Cats, it's much lower. So, I mean, we don't have a problem with cats. We have room for like 60 something cats, but if they come back, we've got space, but we only have room for 27 dogs. We have, so we're trying to have a space for that dog to come back if the sleepover doesn't work out, but also not hold the kennels vacant so long. Dogs that are in foster care, we are no longer holding kennels for them unless we know that they need to come back for some reason, or say if the foster is going on vacation, things like that. So if we are listening, we are making changes. We want to do what's right for the dogs. We want to have them a safe place for them to come back if the sleepover doesn't work out.
So then what are you, if the shelter's closed, what are you telling a citizen? I'm sorry, we can't take the animal off your hands, you're on your own. These are resources, or what information is being given to the citizen to help them, help the dog if we can't do anything.
Yeah, Paige, do you want to address that? You deal with it more than I do. Sorry.
So, we do have a resource list. One side has like all the websites and like, cause there's a million, like Petco Love Lost, Nextdoor, Facebook. There is a lot of, one of the new like practices is a lot of shelters are asking if people can hold on to the dog in that local community for, 48 hours. At our shelter, we don't have the data, but there has been some data with other shelters that, they are more likely to get home if they're staying in the area. For example, if we bring a dog that lives 20 minutes away to the shelter, not everyone knows to look at the shelter, not everyone, they might, live closer to a different shelter, so they're checking there first, even though they're technically our jurisdiction. It might have run over the border, et cetera. So if you keep it close, everyone's on Facebook or Nextdoor or something. People a lot of times will, look there first. And yeah, so that's one of the things that we're recommending. We definitely scan for a chip. We offer microchips in the field as well if they do end up wanting to keep the dog. Our ACOs have been doing that. But the resource list also has other like rescue organizations that they can reach directly out to. We offer crates if they can keep the animal, and then of course they're welcome to keep calling for up to 10 days. If we do get a spot open. So, if it means they have to hold it for 2 days till it gets spot open, they're welcome to continue calling. And seeing if that's open, and sometimes even just finding someone in the community that was willing to take on the dog, a good Samaritan, is a lot easier than having to have the animal go through the traumatic experience of waiting in the shelter, getting vetted through us, waiting for a doctor. Sometimes people do step up. We had that actually a really nice story with a husky that was with us, got lost in the field, and then someone ended up taking it. They drove all the way down to adopt it, so. We do provide a lot of resources. We have been turning away a lot less calls. I would say we've had a lot better numbers with adoptions and things like that. So we definitely have been turning away a lot less, and we've been trying to be more accommodating to, make spaces for meetings.
Yeah, I have a question. On an average month, how many days are we closed to new intake?
We are closed for over-the-counter intake. That's just our policy.
Period.
The way we're doing intake is in the field with the ASOs. They have the resources, they have the ability to check for chips. They can verify that the person is a resident. People will do some pretty funky things to get us to take an animal. They want to verify that it's not their dog. And we want to try to avoid those conflicts. And so we will ask them to take the dog home. We will send an ASO out to their home. We have the space, and it changes very, on a day-to-day basis, even throughout the day, it changes. If we have the space, they'll bring it.
Okay, so I'll rephrase it. How many days are we at full capacity on the average per month? Would you say? And I know I'm not gonna hold you feet.
Yeah.
I just want.
I don't have an answer. I would have to run numbers. And I don't want
That
to
would be
say
something I would like to know. Also, I had another question, and I just lost it. Never mind. I'll come back.
I'll get you an
Jennifer.
Kimberly and I had spoken in the past about, I want to say El Paso had, what they advertised as the first, park location. It was kind of a box and it had a scanner, on a chain that,
those, yeah.
where residents could go to this park and use it if they found an animal. I haven't done any more on that after my life kind of turned upside down, but I'm willing to get back to that. And if there's a place where that is where something like that would be better served than another. I mean, in my head, I keep thinking my neighborhood, it would be nice to have it at the fire station or at a park. But if there's a place where we think it would be better served, a community that is more likely to encounter a greater number of lost animals, I'm willing to pick that up and even donate funds for the first one in our community.
I know there are community members that have scanners. And I know and I think there's one in Graywood, there's one in New Territory, River Park area. But yes, I have seen those boxes.
And if such a thing works, it goes to community autonomy to solve the problem, without calling people, without having to go to PetSmart or all the things, without having, you know, if you can slip a leash over a dog and walk it 2 blocks in the park, as opposed to trying to capture it in some way, cart it in your car that it may not, you know, be familiar with. It just seems that that is an easier way for maybe community to solve. It would be at least worth trying one out, I think, and I'd be willing to.
I would like to explore something like that. We're wrapping up the fiscal year here in a couple of weeks, so we have a fresh new budget starting next year. And it is something that I would like to explore.
So I will pick up and go get some information on it and forward that to you if that's okay.
Appreciate it.
I have just a quick follow-up to Susie's question, because I'm not sure I heard the clarity. From what I heard, just very directly, I call to have a stray dog scanned. It has no chip. I can get as a resident, and we're at capacity, resources, a resource list, I can't think, a crate. The ASO has all that on them, and that if I'm willing to keep the dog for a couple days, he or she will give me the crate, give me the resources, I can keep it, and I can keep checking back to see if there's space. Is that what I heard correctly?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I needed to know. Thank you.
Up to a certain.
Right, I heard you say the time frame.
I think it's 7 days, after 7 days. if
Yeah,
you're
I'm sorry, it is
caring for
7
an animal,
Okay.
by ordinance. it's considered.
Sorry, thank you, Cheryl.
Okay, all right, thank you.
But yeah, we'd like, I mean, we want to have space. In order to have space, we have to move dogs out.
Right.
So, yeah, we only have the space we have. We do not want to go back to having dogs stacked in the hallways. It's not fair to the dogs. It's not fair to our staff to have to hear that barking. It's not good conditions for them to live in. So we can get them, you know, have somebody have them in a home. It's a better place for them.
That sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Current population as of Tuesday. We have currently 23 dogs in shelter. I believe we've taken a couple more in since then, 4 in foster and 1 on sleepover. We did do an RTO just, I think, yesterday. The dog that, Eros, I think was his name. So that was a good story. 41 cats, 20 in foster. I have 2 at my house, 2 on sleepover. Obviously, it's probably changed since then. All right, update on our community cat program. So since we met last, City Council approved the ordinance on May 7th, authorizing the community cat program. Our current grant funding, we have about $8,000 and that $10,000 Best Friends grant that we are using to spay, neuter, and vaccinate cats. And today we have 5 caretakers caring for 6 colonies that are registered, estimated at about 44 cats and kittens. To date, through Monday, we have had 12 cats trapped and released and taken to our vets for surgery. And on our own, through the shelter, we've done 40 cats where people brought us the cats into the shelter. We have TNR them. So it is working. We have 2 resident cats, which I should have put their pictures if you've been to the shelter lately. We have Diablo and Sabrina. So don't panic when you walk up to the shelter and see a black cat or laying on the sidewalk. That's Sabrina. They're both very friendly.
How's that program gonna be funded?
Oh, yes, thank you. Sorry. I asked for money in the budget for next year. So we increased our budget to fund the TNR program through the general fund. And as long as I don't have to cut it, we'll be good. I asked for $20,000 in the budget to fund it for next year. So it's important. We want to continue funding it because if we can keep the kittens from being born, we don't have to find homes for them. It's better for the mothers. So you all know. All right. Rather than going and showing you 4 pages of slides of pictures of reports that you can't read, I took the most important things, numbers, put them in a summary. I also emailed the reports to y'all. They are on our website if you want to go and look at them. Our numbers are looking better. On the cat save rate, we had a dip in July, obviously, because of our closure for the Panleuk outbreak. But our live outcomes include adoptions, return to owner, and our released, which is the TNR program, and then transfer either to a rescue or another shelter, like if we transfer to Best Friends. We've had a lot of intakes on cats. Our save rate, getting very, very close to 90% on cats. That's where we struggle. We don't struggle on dogs. Our dog save rate is very high. And overall, we actually hit above 90% in August. I think it's the first time ever, at least since I've been here, probably before that. We're working on those. Really, our staff they're working hard to get those animals out and find adoption. Many people know that the shelter's there. I'm shocked at the number of people that I talk to in the community that don't even realize we have a shelter in Sugar Land. They're like, okay, I'm gonna go down to the Humane Society. Why? We have a shelter right here. You know, so education is gonna be important. We're continuing our microchip program. This is where we microchip the public's animals, the owned animals. This was funded through our grant from Petco. It dwindles. We just did a post. I think we've already had then you'll do a post on social media and we'll immediately get people calling for an appointment. So just keeping that, keeping it out there. So that's
an annual grant. I mean, do we have to file this every year to get this?
This was a one-time grant, but we bought, Sandra, how many? I think we bought 750 microchips. We're gonna do this until the chips are gone.
Okay.
And at this rate, we're gonna be doing it for a long time. I think we've done 2 big events. I know we did the Yappy Hour last fall. I think we did like 34, 35 dogs. At that event, we did a River Park HOA. They have an event at their dog park. I think we did like 20 or 25 or 30 dogs at that event. But then since then, we've just been saying, bring them to us. It's really not, it's easier, I think, honestly, for, make an appointment, bring us your dogs, we'll chip them for free. We even input all the information. So we had a gentleman come in this morning, I think, that did 2 dogs on his dogs or cats. I don't know. It was cats. Okay. I was watching on the video, but I couldn't tell what kind of animals they were because they took them into the room. All right. All right. This is where it's really consolidated, y'all, because Jillian left and, we had a busy summer and I'm just going to kind of do some highlights on our events. Just want to show you cute kitty here. All right, career day, we've done 4 career days at 4 different schools. This was obviously in May before school let out. We have Telly, who has since been adopted, went to Colony Meadows Elementary School. Eeyore went to Ann Sullivan and Satarsha Middle Schools. And Van Gogh went to Mission West. And they have and for our adoption events, we had May 11th, we had an event at Harley Davidson. We took Bronx, Andy, and Panda. They have all been adopted. We also hosted an on-site event on June 22nd. It was hot. We didn't have any adoptions that day, but that was part of a grant requirement. We had to host an event in June. June's hot. So we didn't get a lot of traffic that day. We also participated in the Petco event, and all of our animals, we didn't bring any home from the event. They all got adopted. Grandpa actually got adopted twice. He got adopted, returned, and then adopted. So poor guy, he was so stressed out when they brought him back. Yenny's been to the Space Cowboys rented dog for the dog bark in the park event. So I think we've done that 3 or 4 times. But it just gets so hot. We try not to take the dogs out there like in the heat of summer. We've taken Zippy. We took Marlin, I think, last week before last. So it's been a good program, get a lot of exposure for the dogs. Jillian and Jake, this is Jake, he's one of our communications staff. They created an online orientation for our volunteers. So we now have the ability for our new volunteers to complete an online orientation, kind of speeding up that process of getting new volunteers onboarded. Zoom Room has opened up over here next to Target. It is kind of like an agility course where you can bring your dog, and they have trainers, they can work with them. And so we've taken a couple of dogs over there. Delta is the black dog here. She actually got featured on Channel 2 as part of that exhibit, and she's been adopted. Kelly went, and Tom Benjamin, he went as well. So we've been able to take several dogs there, and the owner actually made a pretty, he'll be recognized Tuesday evening. We're going to be bringing our donations to City Council. He will be there. He made a pretty sizable donation. I can't remember the amount. But we also have a junior achievement group. They will also be there Tuesday, with their donations. I don't know, when I get to the donation fund. Okay, so medical assistant volunteer, we currently have 3 people that are certified to participate in this program. So basically it's a volunteer position for medical assistants. So if we have only one vet tech working on a day, they need help working with the ringworm cats or Panluke. These volunteers are trained. One's a pre-vet student in college, so she helps with the Panluke and ringworm. And then we've got 2 tenured volunteers who also have stepped up to help during our Panluke outbreak, and we so appreciate it. So appreciate it, y'all. It was on Prime Day. Our lobby was full of boxes. It was wonderful. We were very grateful for all the donations that we got. That was about the time we got the puppies in, and we needed lots of puppy pads. So we got lots of puppy pads, lots of bones. So it was great.
Is there anything that we're still in need of? Anything outstanding now that we need?
I mean, we always need stuff.
Cat hides, cat hiding beds.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, sorry, do you mind if I plug this real quick?
Yeah.
We're converting one of our rooms to a meeting greet room. I wanna make it like a living room. So there's a separate wish list for it. And we're gonna share it on social media soon, so please donate to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're set up to be a little more homey. So like right now, it's just an empty room. It used to have the bangers in it. We were housing dogs, and it's the room with the half door. And we started using it, but right now it's just an empty room. But we'd like to get some furniture, obviously furniture that we can clean, make it a little bit more homey, so that when families come in and start looking at dogs, they can kind of get a feel for, what it would be like to have that dog in their home. So we have that kind of in the cat building already with the playroom in the back, in the great room. Yenny did and I actually went to the Foster Summit, but Houston Pets Live did a Foster Summit. They had Hannah Shaw, AKA the Kitten Lady, came and did a great presentation on kitten care. And I learned a lot what it means. So I won't show you those pictures, but yeah, never been so excited to see pictures of poop on a PowerPoint, but it was a great event. Then we do Lynn does our doggy day out for us a lot. If you want, we still have that program going on. If you want to take a dog out, take them to the store with you. There's several stores that allow the dogs, just get them out of the shelter for a little bit. They love it, love it. And then we had Sarah McLaughlin, if y'all know the ASPCA commercial. She sings the song while she played in Sugarland. We took 3 puppies. They have all since been adopted, but in fact, one of the guys that runs Smart Financial in the back, he adopted the little black guy. He wouldn't put him down. So it was a great event. So we were able to get them adopted. So that's all I have on the operations and engagement.
Okay, then we will move on to director's report, also presented.
I know, this was not supposed to be all me, y'all. Honestly. Appreciate you bearing with me. This has been a very rough week. So, okay, donations fund. We started this year with 174,000 roughly. This was as of, I think I ran this, the 9th. All right, so at the beginning of this week, we had brought in total donations of $25,272. We have earned $8,580 in interest income. Yay, interest rates are up. And we have $11,000 in grant revenue. So that is our $10,000 grant from Best Friends for the Community Cat Program. We also got another $1,000 grant for the Bring Love Home events that we did in June. And we don't even have to do it like prove up expenditures or anything. So we have put those funds in to the donations. This is where we're at. I reduced the budget and this is our amended budget. City Council already adopted an amended budget. So rather than like carrying a $90,000 budget here, I reduced it for projections. We'll be close because we still have the TNR contracts in there. So we will be spending less than $39,000 of this money. So as of right now, projecting as it stands now, we would have 191,000. And so that's where we're at now. Shelter construction, we have almost $130,000 in our capital projects fund that is designated for the shelter. And then the legacy foundations as of this was as of August 23rd, they've taken in $11,621. So combined, we have a little over $141,000. The good news is we did get confirmed from City Council on the fundraising. If the bond passes, we do not have to raise the 2.4 million before we start construction. The city will float the cash for us to be able to do that. And so we'll have materials and we'll have a design and things like that we can share for the fundraising campaign. So that is the good news on that. I think that's all I have. Support. Oh, one more thing, sorry. Dr. Mender obviously is virtual today. So y'all remember we moved the meetings to Fridays to accommodate her schedule. The beginning of this month, her day off is now Monday. So we're gonna
Sorry.
we're gonna need
Sorry, guys.
if we want to keep Dr. Bender on the board, we will need to move the meeting days to Monday, if that's all right. So that she can continue to participate. Otherwise, we'll have to find another vet. And Dr. Bender, want to keep her on the board? Is that all right with everybody? I know that was when we talked about it last time, that was something that we kind of had thrown around, so. Right, so then we will get with Cindy Secretary's office to get the meeting schedule. So then with our next meeting, which would be in November, I believe, it will be Monday. And if the second Monday of the week doesn't work for everybody, I'll do a poll and we'll see like which Monday of the week works best for everyone. Because I know it kind of throws a wrench, and I don't think we have a ton of meetings on Monday for the city. So I think we'll have some flexibility on which day of which week of the month that we get on, but we'll get that. We'll get that all. That is really all I have.
Okay, I apologize for not doing this in the order of the way they were presented, but I didn't want to interrupt the flow. So if I can, address one thing, we were given the Best Friends reports.
Yes.
So I'm curious, as of August 31st, the ending animal count for dogs says 51. And the animal shelter population slide as of September 10th says we have 28 dogs. So where's the discrepancy between 51 and 28 in a 10-day period?
I'll have to look at that.
Okay.
I think it's the puppies.
But they were
Not formally adopted. But then there's also the Cane Corsos were with a rescue.
okay, that was just a.
Yeah, so those have all since been either transferred out, outcomed. I believe that's the discrepancy. But I can verify that for you.
Okay.
We're not hiding dogs, I promise. Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe it's the puppy for you dogs and the Connie Corsos, because that's like 20 dogs right there, so.
And something else. Go ahead.
A couple of things, at the risk of alienating people. The comments about we don't want dogs in hallways. And having citizens do our job for us just doesn't set real well with me. I think it's great we can return to owner in the field. And if people are able to keep the dog in their home, but there are a lot of people that already have dogs. They can't keep a dog even one night. There are other people that have never had dogs that don't know what to do with dogs. I don't think that's the answer. When we had dogs in the hallways, the volunteers got them all out. It wasn't a problem. We've had 50 or 60 dogs. And we stayed as long as we needed to get those dogs out, and we were allowed to stay. The staff would stay as long as we needed to stay to get each one of those dogs outside.
At one
I
point,
don't
we
want-
had 85.
What?
At one point, we had 85 dogs.
Thank you. Why are dogs in hallways where they're getting heat, air conditioning, food, and attention better than dogs running on our streets? I don't think that's the right way to think. We need more volunteers. We have not had any additional dog walkers added since last year. I don't know if we're not targeting the right population, but a city this size, we should have more dog walkers, and a city this size, we're mostly retirees. There have to be a lot more out there that are physically able to walk dogs. They have their own dogs. So the thing about not taking us dogs in leads back to what John keeps saying over and over. What are we going to do in the meantime? We're 3 and 4 years down the road of having a new shelter. Do we need to bring in another building? We did it for cats. Why can't we bring in another temporary building? We can't tell our citizens we can't take dogs. That's the city's job. That's the city they live in. We need to do it for them. It's not. And the next comment I want to make, again, I may ruffle some feathers, but I think there's a lot of people here that would be behind me. The city does not need to spend money to do a search for a new manager. We have that person, and it's Jillian Hinshaw.
Absolutely.
Run the shelter. She knows compassion. She knows each and every dog and their own quirks and whatever.
And she loves dogs.
She knows, well, a lot of people love dogs, so you can't just go by that. But she knows when the heat is up. She knows to go back to the back kennels where the dogs are and shut them in as much as I don't like them being shut in. She's aware of what's going on around the shelter. Another day, she wasn't there. The manager was there. I went back in the kennels. It was over 80 degrees. I had to tell someone that the dogs needed to be shut in because the air conditioning could not cool off the inside. The volunteers are doing a lot of making sure things get done. And everything I saw from Jillian, everything we have all seen, she can run the place, and I think she would want to. And the only reason she left is the same reason employees have left and volunteers have left. And it's not been a good situation. And I'm there 3 days a week, and the tension there in the last several months has not been good. I'm sorry, Jennifer, but we need to move forward, and we need a good manager. And I think there's a large group of people who would be behind Jennifer and know that, or Jillian, and know that she has each and every animal's best interest at heart, along with the staff and the volunteers. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen. Support you.
Okay, well, I have one thing. Love your passion, I really do. And I can't say I don't disagree. We are coming up to October and me being a cat person, we have black cats. Are we going to do the black cat band?
We are not going to do it for the whole month.
Okay.
We're going to do it, I think, for about 2 weeks, for the end of the month.
Alrighty, can we put a call out for foster volunteers to house our black kittens for the time? No need to keep them when they can't go anywhere. Somebody can give them a loving home for a couple of weeks to,
Fortunately, we don't have as near as many as we had last year.
I know.
I think last year we had like, all we had was black
We had
cats.
all black cats last year.
We don't have near as many this year, but we did talk about that at our leadership meeting week before last, I think. Or maybe last week. Yeah, we are going to do it. I think closer to the like mid-October issues, we're gonna implement that because I hate to just totally lock them out for the whole month. That's a really long time.
Yeah, Susie and I were talking about that. When we were-
Yes, but we are.
We're going, okay, we're coming up to October.
Yeah, hopefully we won't have any black cats to have to not allow adoptions on. That would be ideal. But I mean, we've gotten a niece, Telemundo. Sabrina's outside now. We'll keep an eye on her. So we don't have nearly the level of black cats that we've had in the past. I know we've got a couple of really cool ones kind of in foster right now. Ideally, we'll get them in, have them get surgery and get them out before they have to sit there. And I hate to make them sit there for a month.
Yeah.
Because that is, I think, really hard on them.
Mhm.
So, but yes, we are going to do that.
It's hard on those volunteers to sit down and they can't go.
I have two myself, so I get it. I get it.
One thing I was gonna add, thank you, agree with you. When we're talking about the lack of volunteers, just another suggestion to throw out there. I am not retired, not yet. So I just happen to be off today. So I understand and appreciate everyone that volunteers that is retired and can maybe bring someone with them. However, something to think about for either you, Jennifer, or maybe the city's community relations or however. The company I work for, like most, gives me 16 hours, I think, a year of volunteer time. But we also coordinate volunteer events. I was at one yesterday with a group of 12 employees at BARC because we're able to partner with them and Houston Pets Alive.
Yeah.
And I don't know because you're a municipality, but my company also gives, we did a 4-hour, 8 to 12. Each employee that was there, it's tracked in our system. And I think there was 10 of us, maybe I was, let's just say it was 10. That'll help me do the math easy. My participation for 4 hours equaled $100 for Houston Pets Alive times 10 people. So they got a nice little donation. So that's something to consider as well, because myself and one of the other volunteers are also Sugar Land residents. So, you know, if you can tap into something with a corporate team and that group, because we work through Houston Pets Alive, they even said when they found out, where do y'all live? And we did introductions, they said something like, oh, we've been to Sugar Land or we've been to Rosenberg. So myself and my colleague that live in Sugar Land, we told Houston Pets Alive, wow, why don't we coordinate our next volunteer business with our company in Sugar Land or in Rosenberg and Fort McCounty. So initiatives like that with companies that reward volunteer time is another way to recruit volunteers. If you're doing that, great. If you're not, I just wanted to throw it out there.
Yeah, I don't believe we are, but yeah, I'm definitely open to that. And we'll
Yeah.
get any.
And we walk dogs at BARC and Houston Pets Alive. It was our first, well, the group had started going there in September. And so this was my first visit there, but they got us all trained and they tried to recruit us while we were there. Hey, y'all, on Saturdays, you want to come here, come here. And so I didn't really go for that because it's easier for me to drive here than it is for BARC. So just a thought, if it's something you kind of want to work at, and I mean, I can tell you the name of my company off the record.
I can tell you my old
Contact
contact
info.
the same thing.
Yeah. If you'll get with Sandra, she oversees
Okay.
Jenny now, so she supervises you. And that is the objective of having that second engagement coordinator, so we can build that type of event. And that type of base.
I think in the past, we've talked about going to the clubhouses and I've mentioned something the kernel of an idea to Jenna, who lives in my neighborhood as well, as we've sat here. But I think that there is, for all of that, getting more volunteers, there is communication that currently does not happen, that if it could happen within the neighborhoods, and I don't know that HOAs are always I know there's a liaison relationship between the city and HOAs, but you know, if I envision at our clubhouse signage, they change the message so that every person in our neighborhood going by sees that message, a selected message for a period of time, and having some talk or activity that takes place there. I think that there's something that we're not currently doing that we could do that would open more communication to the residents who have time to do some of these things. And I'm willing to be part of that activity that happens.
Yeah, I think that's important too. And I guess one of the reasons why I wanted to share is that, you know, not being retired and all of us at work that I went with yesterday, you know, that's one of the things that we heard was that, what is today, Friday? So I went yesterday, Thursday. On a Thursday from 8 to 12, it might be hard to get volunteers. Or on a Tuesday from 8 to 12, it might be hard to get volunteers in the middle of the week, middle of the day. And there were 11 people there for a 4-hour block to take care of a lot of work. I mean, I have weekends, most people have weekends, but not everybody wants to work all week and then say, I'm going to go volunteer for 8 hours on a Saturday. So when you have, in my case, a corporate team that is going to say, we're going to dedicate 4 hours or 5 hours. When do you need us? Because if it's a company sponsored event, we're all given that time to go out and do that. And so that's what made me think about that as well. A high needs time, that would be something else to consider as well. Like, what is your biggest need? And then targeting people like myself that fortunately work for a company that gives that benefit of the time during the work week.
Yeah, and I think there's the opportunity to liaise with our community, businesses in our community. But more than that, our residents, if they know that there's a need and they know there's a shelter, many of them, as we mentioned earlier, don't.
Right.
Then there's opportunity for them to go to their businesses and start coordinating or being the liaison.
Right, agreed.
So I think that's a great idea. Any further questions? I have one then, Jennifer. If we're moving our meetings to Monday, when would we receive the information that we're going to review? Because, you know, I think people are going to be busy on the weekend. And so my suggestion would be that we back up that information instead of getting on a Sunday.
Oh, yeah, no, I would definitely get it to you like Friday at the latest. If you want it earlier than that, just let me know when you want it. We just have to get the PowerPoint together.
Yeah, I've been giving a lot of thought to the time frame, and especially if it's something that is, you know, that is going to seem contentious or even high interest. I'd like to see us get that material a little earlier so that we do have time to review. And Monday, you know, a lot of people go to church, have kids' activities, all kinds of things on the weekend. So I'd just like to see that material come to us in the prior week so that we have time to review instead of.
Council is, we send it the Friday before the Tuesday meeting. So if they have a workshop, they're getting the presentation on Friday with their.
And then
if you want to back it up to Thursday, y'all just let me know. This week, and I will apologize this week, it's been a week.
And if it's the kind of material that we were reviewing today, then I don't have as much a problem. But if it's something, if it's ordinances and it's things like that, I would really like to see us get that kind of information in plenty of time for there to be dialogue. Different people are going to review at different times. And I really want to make sure that we have time to communicate back and forth, you know, before we have to make a decision. on material.
And as we move forward with this operations task force that we're implementing and going over all of the policies and procedures, we'll be utilizing the subcommittees. Obviously, if we have policies, because they will need to come before the board. And so what they're doing, and Rob mentioned, touched on those committees, but we have some people that are dedicated to this 100% at the time. And I'm part of it. We'll be researching best practices. They're gonna be, like talking to every employee, pulling data on efficiencies and things like that. So we're gonna get everything documented. And so if anything that rises to the level of ordinance changes or policies, I think those are the two subcommittees that we have now. And I promised John I would go back and I find my notes on who's on what committee and reshare that with everyone from. I think we did that at the last meeting, if I remember right. Yeah, because it was after the ordinance was approved.
I'll just go ahead and ask, but per your request, that I'm just gonna throw out a date. It was the Wednesday before. So if the meetings go to Monday, I would like to have it by Wednesday. But
I think that's a great time frame to give people opportunity to find time to review.
We can do that.
thank you.
As we're talking about the next meeting, could we maybe put something on the agenda to have a brainstorming or a question and answer as a board to discuss with either Rob or you or the task force, how we're gonna fill the gap, like John and Ellen have mentioned for this. We have a problem, it's not going away regardless of what happens with the bond. How are we gonna fix it or make an attempt to deal with it and instead of the way we're dealing with it now? So is that something we could officially ask to have as a discussion item or whatever the right word is on the
can ask Rob.
agenda so that we can officially talk about it and I mean, we're not gonna necessarily get an answer, but say, okay, we're gonna try this, or can we do this? No, we don't have the money, or yes, we could do this and look into it, but.
So, we had looked at that intake building, where we were trying to change the flow. We bid that thing twice and it came in twice the budget both times. Construction costs are just unreal right now. And so we made the decision not to move forward with that because I'd rather spend that $600,000 on a new shelter than a temporary building that we're gonna be in. So, but we can definitely look at it. And I can tell you that the housing of the dogs is coming from city management on how we're like, what our capacity is, the number, like, this is our capacity. So that's the direction that we've been given.
Okay. An answer to your question, or do you have an answer? Okay.
I'll talk to Rob. And see what we can do.
Well, then, if there are no other questions, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second, thank you. Then the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.